Welcome to Psychtify, where we explore the psychology of power, influence, and survival in a world that doesn't always reward goodness. This isn't just philosophy, it's survival training for the mind. Because let's be honest, in life, being good without limits doesn't make you noble. It makes you vulnerable. And nobody exposed this truth more brutally than Niccolo Machiavelli, the political thinker whose book, The Prince, still terrifies and inspires leaders to this day. Section 1. The Trap of Being Too Good. We've all been taught to be kind, to forgive, to help others. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Kindness, when unguarded, can turn into chains. Think about it. The worker who always says yes to extra tasks becomes the office doormat. The friend who always lends money but never asks for repayment becomes the ATM of the group. The partner who gives endless second chances ends up enabling betrayal. In psychology, there's a concept called the exploitation of agreeableness. Studies show that people who rank highly agreeable, those who avoid conflict, who want everyone to be happy, are more likely to be manipulated. Why? Because their very identity is built on not saying no. And once you can't say no, you become a slave. Machiavelli would laugh at the modern illusion that goodness automatically creates respect. He argued instead, men are ungrateful, fickle, liars, and deceivers. As long as you serve their interests, they will be loyal. But once you no longer serve them, they will betray you. Let that sink in. Loyalty is conditional. If you think goodness guarantees safety, you've already lost. Section 2. Machiavelli's brutal honesty. Machiavelli lived in Renaissance Italy, a world of assassinations, betrayals, and unstable alliances. He watched how power shifted not because of virtue, but because of strategy. And here's the shocking thing. He didn't necessarily say, be evil. Instead, he said, don't be naive. His core principle was this. A ruler should appear merciful, trustworthy, and humane, but must always be ready to act against those virtues when necessary. That's the difference between someone who uses people and someone who is used by people. The moment you cling too tightly to being the good one, you lose the ability to make hard decisions. You hand over your freedom, you become predictable, and predictability is the first step toward being controlled. Section 3. The Psychology of Being Used. Let's break this down with modern psychology. There's a behavioral trap known as reciprocity imbalance. When you give too much without demanding fair exchange, people stop valuing your contributions. Here's why. If you always give without asking, others stop seeing it as generosity. They see it as your duty. If you always forgive, your forgiveness loses power. If you always sacrifice, people stop respecting you and start expecting you to sacrifice. Think of it like economics. If a currency is printed endlessly, its value collapses. The same is true of unchecked kindness. Oversupply destroys value. This is why people who are too good end up bitter, resentful, and broken. They thought goodness would protect them, but it only made them easy prey. Section 4. The Machiavellian Alternative. So, what's the alternative? Machiavelli would say, don't stop being good, but don't make goodness your prison. In practice, that means 1. Appear kind, but calculate outcomes. A smile can be a mask, use it strategically. 2. Help others, but measure the return. If someone drains you without giving back, cut them off. 3. Forgive, but don't forget. Keep score. Even if you forgive, you don't erase the lesson. 4. Be feared or be loved. Machiavelli said it's ideal to be both, but if you must choose, choose fear, because fear controls behavior more reliably than love. Now, think about your own life. Are you the one using these rules, or are you the one being used? In this series, we're going to go deeper. We'll look at the psychological traps of being too good, the strategies Machiavelli offers for escaping them, and the practical steps you can take to stop being someone's pawn. and start being a strategist of your own life. This is Psychtify. Stay sharp, stay aware, and remember, if you're too good, you're a slave. Eat trap of being too good and how unchecked kindness makes you a slave. Now, in part 2, we're diving into 5 Machiavellian tactics that will help you flip the script so you can stop being used and start using situations, people, and systems to your advantage. These aren't abstract ideas. They're psychological weapons you can apply in your career, relationships, and personal power. Tactic 1. Control appearances. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." Translation: perception is reality. If you appear generous, people will label you generous, even if you're calculating. If you appear loyal, people will trust you, even if you're secretly strategizing. This is the first rule of not being used. Let people underestimate you. Appear soft when you're strong, and appear strong when you're soft. The one who controls appearances controls expectations, and the one who controls expectations controls outcomes. Tactic 2. Give, but with strings attached. Goodness without conditions is weakness, but conditional generosity is power. In psychology, this connects to the principle of indebtedness. When you give strategically, people feel obligated to return the favor. For example, in business, don't just help a colleague, help in a way that ties them to your success. In relationships, don't just give affection, give it in ways that create loyalty. Machiavelli would say, never waste a gift. If you give, make sure it binds the other person to you, like a hook in water. Tactic 3. Fear as insurance. We all want to be liked, but Machiavelli's brutal reminder is this: it is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Why? Because fear creates predictable behavior. Love is fickle. Someone may love you today and betray you tomorrow. But fear lingers. Fear makes people think twice before crossing you. Psychology supports this. Studies on deterrence show that people respond more consistently to consequences than to affection. Now, this doesn't mean being cruel or abusive. It means projecting strength, setting boundaries, and making sure people know there are costs to disrespecting you. Without fear, kindness becomes irrelevant. Tactic 4. Divide and rule. This one is pure Machiavelli. He noticed that when power is concentrated in one group, that group becomes dangerous. So, a smart ruler keeps people divided, never united enough to overthrow him. Applied to modern life, this means don't let alliances form against you. At work, if 2 people might conspire to undercut you, keep them competing for your approval instead. Don't reveal your full loyalty. Keep multiple options open, so no one feels secure in controlling you. This isn't about paranoia. It's about balance. When everyone depends on you but doesn't fully trust each other, you stay in control. Tactic 5. Strike decisively. Here's a mistake good people make: hesitation. They wait, they hope, they forgive, they give more chances. Meanwhile, their enemies gather strength. Machiavelli warned against this. He argued that when you must strike, whether firing someone, ending a toxic friendship, or making a bold career move, you do it fast, hard, and once. Why? Because hesitation breeds weakness, but decisive action shocks people into respect. Think about it. The boss who fires a manipulative employee quickly sends a message to the whole team. The person who ends a toxic relationship without drama sets a clear boundary. Power isn't in endless patience, it's in timely execution. Wrapping part 2. So let's recap the 5 Machiavellian tactics. 1. Control appearances. 2. Give with strings attached. 3. Trap 3. The sympathy card. Manipulators often present themselves as victims. They weaponize your empathy. You'll hear, You don't understand what I've been through. I wouldn't be like this if life hadn't been so unfair. And suddenly, you're not dealing with their toxic behavior. You're dealing with their tragic story. Machiavellian counter. Sympathy without boundaries is slavery. You can care, yes, but caring does not mean tolerating abuse. When someone consistently hides behind excuses, remind yourself, their pain does not excuse their poison. Trap 4. The dependency web. Here's a clever tactic. Manipulators make themselves seem helpless, so you take responsibility for their problems. At first, you feel important, needed, useful. But over time, their dependency becomes your prison. This is rooted in the psychology of learned helplessness. They train you to carry their burdens while they avoid responsibility. Machiavellian counter. Help once, but never let helping become a habit. Machiavelli's wisdom? Men will always find ways to shift burdens if someone else will carry them. Your power lies in refusing to be the permanent rescuer. Trap 5. The good person identity. Trap. This one is subtle and deadly. Manipulators trick you into believing your value lies in always being good, agreeable, and selfless. So if you set boundaries, they accuse you of being selfish. If you assert power, they call you cruel. They weaponize your own self-image against you. Machiavellian counter. Redefine good. Good does not mean weak. Good does not mean used. In fact, true goodness sometimes requires hardness, because protecting yourself is the only way to protect what really matters. Wrapping part 3. So let's review the 5 traps. 1. Guilt levers. 2. Endless forgiveness. 3rd. Sympathy cards. 4th. Dependency webs. 5. Identity traps. These are the invisible chains that keep good people enslaved. And the truth is brutal. If you don't recognize them, you'll live your life as someone else's tool. But if you do recognize them, you unlock freedom. You gain the power to choose when to give, when to forgive, and when to walk away. In part 4, we're going to go even deeper. We'll uncover how to build your own Machiavellian mindset, practical mental exercises to rewire your brain for power, strategy, and control. Because knowing the traps is step 1. But learning how to think like a strategist is the ultimate weapon. This is Psychtify. Stay sharp, stay free, and remember, if you let others define your goodness, you've already given them the leash. We've uncovered the traps that make good people slaves. But avoiding traps is only half the journey. The other half is transformation, reshaping the way you think so you're no longer someone who reacts, but someone who designs outcomes. Machiavelli understood something most people still don't. Power doesn't come from constant action. It comes from the way you shape your mind. If you don't control your mindset, the world controls it for you. Think about it. Every manipulator, every abuser, every exploiter, they all succeed because their victim's mind was already conditioned to serve, conditioned to please, conditioned to give. So the real revolution begins here, in the mind. Building the Machiavellian mindset. The first shift is detachment. You cannot afford to let guilt, fear, or the need to be liked dictate your decisions. The people who use you depend on that. They rely on you being too emotional, too reactive, too predictable. But when you learn to pause, to breathe, to see the situation from above, as if you're an outsider looking down on a chessboard, you stop being a pawn. You start thinking like the player who moves the pieces. Machiavelli's genius wasn't just in cruelty, it was in perspective. He could look at human behavior without illusion. Where others saw loyalty, he saw convenience. Where others saw love, he saw opportunity. And where others saw betrayal, he saw inevitability. This is the mindset you must build. To look at people not as they claim to be, but as they truly act. The power of mystery and silence. One of the greatest tools of power is silence. The more predictable you are, the easier you are to control. If people can read you, they can manipulate you. But when you learn to hold back, to let others guess, to create just enough mystery so no one fully knows what you'll do, you become harder to use. Mystery is magnetic. It draws people in, and it makes even your smallest moves feel larger, heavier, more significant. This doesn't mean becoming cold or distant. It means becoming intentional. Every word you speak, every kindness you show, every decision you make, measured, deliberate, controlled, strength and boundaries. Finally, let's speak about strength. Not the loud, aggressive kind of strength that bullies use, but the quiet, unshakable strength of someone who knows where their lines are and refuses to let anyone cross them. Boundaries are not walls. They are gates. You decide who enters, you decide who stays, and you decide when it's time to close the door. Without boundaries, your kindness becomes a weapon against you. But with boundaries, kindness becomes a choice, not an obligation. And that's the difference between being good as a slave and being good as a sovereign. This is the Machiavellian transformation. Detachment, perspective, mystery, and strength. It doesn't mean abandoning goodness. It means protecting it, elevating it, and using it with precision. Because in the end, the world does not reward those who are simply good. It rewards those who are strategic with their goodness. The difference between being used and being powerful lies in whether you let your kindness be controlled or whether you control it yourself. In the final part, part 5, we'll tie everything together. I'll show you how to live this philosophy day by day, how to move through the world with both goodness and power, and how to ensure you are never again the one being used, but always the one in control of your destiny. This is Sanctify. Stay aware, stay sharp, and never let your goodness become your prison. We've traveled a long road together, from exposing the dangers of being too good, to learning Machiavelli's ruthless lessons, to unmasking the traps manipulators use, and finally, reshaping the mindset you need to rise above it all. Now it's time to pull the threads together and answer the question: how do you live in this world as both a good person and a powerful one? The balance of goodness and power. The truth is this: goodness without power is slavery, but power without goodness is tyranny. If you lean too far into goodness, you're consumed by users, abusers, and manipulators. If you lean too far into power, you become the very monster you once feared. The Machiavellian path is not about becoming cruel. It's about becoming complete. It's about having the strength to be kind when it serves you, and the strength to be ruthless when it protects you. This balance is rare, but those who master it are unstoppable. Living strategically every day. So, how do you live this philosophy day by day? First, you carry awareness. Every interaction, every relationship, every opportunity, see it as part of a larger game. Don't be the piece that gets moved. Be the one who understands the board. Second, you guard your energy. Not everyone deserves your help, your time, or your love. Give to those who prove worthy, and withdraw from those who only take. Third, you move with intention. No wasted words, no unnecessary actions. Every choice you make should serve either your survival, your growth, or your vision. When you live this way, you no longer walk through the world as prey. You walk through it as a strategist, as someone who can bend situations to their advantage while still carrying the ability to show mercy, loyalty, and compassion when it is earned. Your final lesson. Machiavelli once wrote that fortune favors those who act with boldness, and boldness begins when you stop apologizing for your strength, your ambition, and your boundaries. You don't owe anyone endless kindness. You don't owe anyone your silence. You don't owe anyone the right to use you. What you owe to yourself is to live strategically, to know when to be kind, when to be firm, and when to cut ties. This is not the death of goodness. It is the rebirth of powerful goodness. The kind that cannot be exploited. The kind that chooses freely, not under chains. So remember this. If you're too good, you're a slave. But if you fuse goodness with strategy, mercy with strength, and kindness with boundaries, you are no one's servant. You are the master of your own life. This is Psychtify. Stay aware, stay sharp, and never stop learning the psychology of power